guys, and welcome 3:09 Eastern time, and we're ready for discuss about what's going on in political situation here in Florida, live with Lynn Su, but Lynn Su has a technical problem right now. But anyway, guys, this is a great example how to show what the team means. So, and we have here in a Two Cats studio production the guest, and we welcome Gregory CONTERIO. He's campaign manager. He's here, and we start with you first of all, of course. And Malka Shahar here and Georgi BARDMESSER. Welcome to Cats Video Production, guys. So we're waiting for Lynn. She's got technical issues, so shit happens. Sometimes we know that Democrats doing that for sure. So Gregory, let's start with you. Your first time here. Hello and welcome to our show. So let's introduce what Lynn's doing and why she is running for the Florida State Representative. What's the main reason for that?
Oh, sure. Well, thank you very much for having me, Nick. I really appreciate you taking the time and being able to be here. The best way to answer that really is to talk about why I am here with Lynn myself. Lynn is that relatively rare person who is motivated first and foremost by principle. She has a very strong idea of what is right and what is wrong, and the best way to accomplish that in terms of what I think we would all like to see in good public policy. That's what politics really should be about. The whole game that everybody finds so distasteful a lot of the time is really just about trying to put the best public policy in place for everybody. And Lynn is a principle-driven individual who first and foremost relies on her understanding of what's best, what it is that is going to help us all the most in our communities here across Florida, particularly in District 106 where she lives.
So first of all, we have a George BARDMESSER here. He's a Sunny Isles resident, like a Malka Shahar, yeah. And I want to ask you, do you have some concerns about Lynn Su, George? What do you think about her? What the information you found so far, and what the question you got to the campaign manager, Gregory CONTERIO, about her?
Well, I guess if we're going to see her soon, then I probably should save my questions for her. But I actually, believe it or not, was not aware of her existence until about a week and a half ago, when I got something that looked like sort of semi-political spam. And to my surprise, discovered that it's not just this Fabian Basabi person who is running for that office. It's also Lynn Su, whose last name I can't pronounce, and probably no one can pronounce. But that's fine.
Let's do practice. Is Sichapachukul.
Right. That was my second,
and we can find it on her on the ballots here. So it's a third position. If you go, this is the ballot actually. Yes, and
Right.
if we found the District 106, her name is here, and this is the third position. Lynn Su Sijapachukno. Yeah, I have some practice.
Right. No, I believe you. I mean, that was my second or third guess for how to pronounce it, but that's not the problem. Now I guess as a general point, I'm probably more politically aware than your average, housewife. It is impossible to follow the twists and turns of every political, comings and goings, here. So now, with that said, I have never heard of her until just the other day. I should probably add that I saw exactly one sign for Fabian, and I've met him actually, accidentally. I have not seen any for Lynn, to be honest. Now, whether that means anything or not, I don't know, but just to point out, it might not hurt to have at least a sign or two. Maybe they exist in Aventura, I don't know. But I have not seen one here in Sunny Isles. I don't know how much do they cost? Like these signs, how much do they cost?
Roughly between like $6 and $7 each, I think. It depends on where you source them from. You can go higher. You can probably find a little bit lower, but that's roughly, I think, the going rate for signs for the most part.
Well, my advice would be to invest in a few dozen at least, or maybe a couple hundred. I mean, the primary is what, like 2 weeks away, 3 weeks away, I think. So, I mean, if I've never heard of her, what's that?
August 23rd.
Okay, so about 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
So 3.5 weeks. Maybe invest in some signs. Now, again, signs, you know, whether they work or not, it's an endless subject of debate in political, you know, professional circles. But if nobody knows of your existence, that's probably not the best way to get elected. You know, separate and aside from whatever your
especially Republicans who live in Sunny Isles, which is the George Burmeister is. He is browsing the information, but I was so surprised he is not have any
I haven't seen any. Now, I have not made a study. Maybe there's signs in Bell Harbor. Maybe there's signs in Aventura. I don't know. I can't.
My question is, do you got Georgi the ballots? Malka, we cannot hear you. Unfortunately, you have no sound. Could you just unmute it, or just found the source of your mic under the gear, and so probably this is the problem with. So, George, I just wondering, did you order the ballot before you got to the to get your vote done to voter polls? Because we got this information and we got the whole district 106, and there is some information regarding her. Oh, by the way, she is here. Lynn, hello. Can you hear us? This is live, guys. That's why we got some technical issues, but that honest at least.
If I may, real quick, George, can I ask, are you a registered Republican?
Yes.
And where you live in Sunny Isles, more specifically, are you in a condo or a gated community?
No, I'm in a condo in Ocean 3.
Okay. The difficulty we have with our district in particular, and you touch on this is a challenge for everybody. The big difficulty that we have in reaching out to people is that somewhere north of 60 to 65% of all of the residents within District 106 live in private gated communities or condos, which are a lot more difficult for candidates to reach. They're also a lot more restrictive about putting up signage and things like that. So it is a challenge, and it's one that we work very, very hard at trying to overcome. As a registered Republican, I would hope that you would have received a mailer from us. We've had them going out to registered Republicans all over the county.
It's possible.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I haven't. I'm specifically talking. The thing is, we all get a lot of mail. I'm specifically just a visual impression. Just my own story. I don't want to make myself the star of the show, but we were walking our dog in Golden Beach maybe 3 weeks ago, and who do we run to? Somebody we've never heard of before, named Fabian Basson. So we had a short conversation with him there. We didn't. Again, I'm probably more politically aware than your typical, voter. Not necessarily about local Florida issues, though, but still, we've never heard of him. He seems reasonably, nice. I guess as a general sort of comment, I looked on his website. Seems reasonably generic Republican. I looked on your website, Lynn. Seems reasonably generic Republican. I suppose one of my questions to you, maybe we can get to the questions now.
Yeah, can you hear me? I just want to make sure that. Okay, great. All right, we're worried about that. Okay.
And again, if I talk too much, stop me, because I'm a lawyer, so I can talk forever about things. I'm an expert in every field, just so you know. Even things I know nothing about, I'm an expert there. So stop me if I bullshit too much. But
well, first of all, thank you for coming on to explore this opportunity, right? And thank you for giving me the chance to speak with you. Yeah.
So I guess my question to you is, what motivated you specifically to run for office? It's not something you do. Now, some do, obviously, but it isn't sort of a typical path for an immigrant. I'm an immigrant, obviously, myself. So running for office has never been my, thing. So why don't you tell us why you decided to run for office?
Okay, the thing that initially started me to run is because I had volunteered for various different nonprofits. I also been appointed on several boards. And what I realized is like everything that we do is just to put a Band-Aid on top of whatever problems that legislation didn't take care of, right? So then that's the initial thought that came to my mind. The other thing is that I was born and raised in this country. I realized that the opportunities that were available to my parents and the opportunities that are happening now with all, it actually provides a big, huge barrier to entry for a lot of people. So not counting illegal immigrants, right? But immigrants who come here and want to start something or want to do something, it's very difficult. I mean, if you want to get a cosmetology license, you'd have to go to school for like 9 months and pay like $12,000. Then you got to go get licensing for it, and you got to renew your license every year. Like, how are we going to have people like come out and start making money and doing things and prospering in this land of opportunity that we call it? This is actually another thing. Then the whole overreach of the federal government into our state rights was a major thing for me. I think that like if we don't protect our state and keep our state free, this can actually cause a whole load of repercussions inside of whatever it is that the federal government wants to mandate. They want to control every single state. They treat everybody the same. They don't look at us as individual states that have sovereign rights. So with that said, like those are the three main reasons as why I am stepping into the race. It just so happens that this race, it was a turned out seat. So it was perfect. And I initially was living in the district until they drew my house, like literally like the neighborhood that I live in, out of the district. Because if you see the new line, but that's not an issue. I'm not going to let some redistricting, take me out from serving my community. And unfortunately, even though I can't serve the community that I'm currently living in, but the issues that I have been dealing with for the past year since I filed, I have always been focusing on the coastal area. So.
Oh, but wait, if you don't live in the district, how can you run in the district? Or it's not.
You can run in the district. You have to move into the district by the night of the election.
Oh. All right.
Good to know.
And especially in a redistricting year, like I think a lot of people understand that like the lines are not favoring anybody, right? Somebody's going to be unhappy about those lines.
No, that I understand.
Yeah.
And that's also two districts, as my understanding. It's Aventura and Sunny Isles, right?
In the district, yeah, there's 10 municipalities altogether, right? So we have Golden Beach, Sunny Isles, Aventura.
Lynn, I want to ask you about local business, about small business and middle business. How do you want to help them after you get that position and as state representative? How to help them, especially in this hard time with the, with the inflation is going up and with that economy situation?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's something that is never addressed because, Florida is a tax-free state for, individuals. We don't really look at like corporate taxes, right? We do have, we don't have high corporate taxes, but
so
it's
now
still
Biden
higher.
want to raise for 15% the corporate taxes.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the federal government, but for the state, we're at the 5 percentile range, while states like Texas is in the 2 percentile range. And I get that, like we're a smaller, geographically sized state, and plus we're really crowded. But I think that we can alleviate some of those taxes for established businesses already, and also, maybe incoming business. I believe in treating everybody equal. So basically, like if we reduce the taxes a little bit, I think that would also help. Definitely one thing that I really want to move to take out is commercial taxes, commercial rental tax. So if you're renting a space and you're a business, you're paying 5.5% on top of your rent for taxes. And I believe that taxes in that aspect should not be taxed because the renter is already going to develop the property, right, to fit their business, whatever their business is. They're going to put money into decorating it. And the government has no say in that. And they're also collecting taxes from the rental, the income. And they're also, I mean, if it's a company, And they're also collecting taxes from the corporation or the company that is already doing business there. So why is there so many different layers of taxes is something that I would probably really look at and see if we can take out.
Let's talk about the Second Amendment.
Okay.
Why not,
Oh,
right?
that's a very good topic. Yes. Mhm.
So where are you on the Second Amendment? I'm guessing as a well, maybe I shouldn't guess. Tell us where you are on the Second Amendment.
Okay. I am pro Second Amendment, obviously, right? I think that this is, now with that said, I am a constitutional carry conservative, pro Second Amendment. That means that, like, you know, there is a certain level of screening. I still believe that some red flags about like mental health, for instance, should be also addressed, but all of this has to have due process. There's also like close family members that are reporting that you shouldn't be holding a gun because you're a danger to yourself. And I believe this is something that the government should protect, right? Protect you against yourself being a harm to yourself. So this is something that I look into. I don't believe in open carry. I think that's a little too scary for most people. And us being somewhat of a purple state, right? I still believe that we should have guns because we are protecting ourselves from tyrannical government. And the reason why our experiment of the Constitution in our country has been able to last this long is because of that. One of those big reasons, right? On top of the First Amendment, which is quickly going away. Right now, we have a lot of First Amendment in propaganda, and we want to make sure that, like, at least we as citizens can protect ourselves against the government trying to take us over.
Especially when the police does not protect us properly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Malka here. Malka, can you ask the question? I see the sound comes from you. No.
No, still no sound.
No,
Oh,
still
when
no
we let
sound.
George finish his follow-up question,
Yeah,
did
sure.
you want to have? Did you have a follow-up question, George?
Which firearms are you proficient?
Can you hear me? Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
we can hear you
Yes,
now.
now sounds here. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm happy Greg today with us because it's a big opportunity to ask him questions. We are new, and I'm very happy. I'm glad he can teach us, Russian-speaking community, how to participate at the election day on August 23rd, and how to be poll walkers, poll watchers, to make sure our votes will count in our community. And also how the media people like Nick can spread the information all over the community. Please, Greg, inform us how we can make sure our votes will count and our election will be clear.
Well, I mean, I hate interrupting Lynn and George talking about the Second Amendment. Would it be okay to let them finish up that conversation first before we delve into that?
Well, I only have one quick
I
follow-up.
don't hear what you was talking about. So sorry.
Oh, yeah. I have one quick follow-up. Which specific firearms are you yourself proficient in?
Me, myself, handgun. That's it.
Which one?
Like a pistol?
Yeah,
like a gun. Like, it's a Glock or something. I don't know.
Oh, I myself have a Taurus, which is
very
actually, yeah. But I only have that because it has 3 safety features. But yeah, so I actually just spoke with somebody yesterday about taking some gun safety courses inside of, like, you know, like how to react in situations where, you know, when you're up against something, like how would I respond, and, you know, how can I use my gun safely, you know, all that other stuff. So that's I'm definitely
aim for center mass. You can't go wrong there. Center mass.
Thank you. Okay. Are you good now, George? Do you have any other questions?
Oh, I have lots of questions, but I don't want to hog all the time.
Okay. We'll let Masa take her turn.
So let's do the time Gregory to answer for because it's very very good subjects. We are not sure. We're going to the election, and our what's going to be told.
I wanna add to my question. And in election 2020, we still have some questions after the presidential election, after the Trump election, how the media was able to inform citizens about the how fair was election, and how we can learn what we must do, how to prevent any fraud, any questionary.
Mm-hmm. Well, certainly that I think the statement that the 2020 election was rigged is perfectly sustainable in most regards. And by rigged, I'm not talking about people going out and stuffing ballot boxes or things like that, or corrupt voting machines. It's actually much worse in most respects. The election was rigged in the sense that we had the major institutions of the news media literally in the pocket of the Democratic Party, suppressing news that was unfavorable to them, highlighting news, some of it completely made up on occasion, that was derogatory towards the other side. And this has a big impact. This has a very, very, very big impact in terms of the voting public. We now know, for example, all of the business that was going on with Hunter Biden. It wasn't Russian disinformation, as the media like to try to tell us. It was all pretty much true and has been verified today. They sat on this. They prevented it from getting out into the public domain, and it had a very big influence on the election. In polling that has been done subsequently, large swaths of voters have said that had they known this at the time, it definitely would have affected their vote. That is the real problem that we have. That is the real threat that we have. And it's important to make that distinction, because I know a lot of people today still are they question, why should I bother to go out and vote? They feel like it doesn't make any difference. When you give into that question, you are surrendering to the other side. It is exactly what they want you to do. They want you to stay home.
It's the main principle of the propaganda, to stay home, do nothing.
Correct. And you are letting them win without even putting up a fight. When you do that, you are allowing them to dominate the election without any effort on our part. And that's what they want. That's what they would love to see. We have to have confidence in our voting system. We have to have confidence in our elections, and we should have, especially here in Florida. In Florida, we ran one of the quickest, most efficient, most well-run elections that was conducted anywhere in the country in 2020. We had very, very little in the way of problems. We had our results fully reported before 11:30 at night. Which for a big state is fairly remarkable, especially when you see what went on in a lot of other states that are a lot smaller and have a lot fewer votes to count than we do. But at the end of the day, we do have to make sure that our elections stay honest, fair, and to that end, it is by participating that happens. First and foremost, you need to get out and vote. That is the number one thing. If you are a registered voter and you care about what happens in your community and in the state, you need to make sure that your voice is heard. And you do that first and foremost by voting. Second, a big thing that we can do in our community is volunteering to be a poll watcher. This is something that we're going to need come Election Day on August 23rd and again on November 8th. We need people at all of the polling places with Lynn's campaign, basically just as the saying goes, to keep the honest, to be able to keep an eye on everybody, make sure that they are following the rules. We already have teams of people in place throughout Miami-Dade County that form a network. If any shenanigans are spotted, you can call them right away on your cell phone. And we literally have, I know, teams of attorneys, election attorneys, who have volunteered their time on behalf of and in support of the Republican Party. The Democrats have the same thing, who will intervene and step in instances where there are shenanigans going on, or where there are poll workers who, give them the benefit of the doubt, maybe just don't know the rules or understand the procedures as well as they should. And by this, we help make sure that the elections are kept honest and fair. And to that end, we still have a lot of options for people to get out to the polls and vote. We have absentee ballots, also called vote by mail, which have been distributed over the last week. I think the last ones were mailed out on Thursday last week, a week ago. We have early voting that takes place, between August 13th
8th and 21.
August 8th and 21st. That's correct. I had to look at my
calendar.
My calendar to make sure that I got it right. Exactly. So plenty of time, plenty of opportunity. If you want to go out and vote in person, I highly recommend voting in person. That way, when you drop off your ballot, you know that it has gone into the ballot box and is going to be counted. You don't have to worry about whether or not the mail delivers it. That's, sometimes the postal
service. Do we have Dominion? Is that who is counting the votes here?
Right. Yes.
No.
We talked with GREGORY before. Yeah. So many times, and even Joe Biden tell who won, who count the voters. Especially absentee balance.
That was actually. I hope I can say that here. That quote was originally attributed to Joseph Stalin.
Yes, but he's mentioned it.
He was right.
Yes. But no, we don't have Dominion voting machines here in Florida. And in all honesty, I think that was a bit of a red herring. There has never been any evidence presented that any of the Dominion machines were corrupted or used in a malfeasant way. I think that we do ourselves as Republicans a disservice by continuing to focus on that particular story, because it erodes confidence in our own elections. And like I said, the most important thing is people getting out and casting that vote. And we don't want to give them any sort of reason or encouragement of the idea that their vote is going to somehow not count.
Let me ask a question. The District 109, what's the partisan lean of
106.
the new one?
106. 106.
It's 106.
Yeah. What's the
No
partisan
problem.
lean?
So we got 25% Republicans, 35% Democrats, and the rest of them are no party affiliation, which is 40%.
No, but I mean, based on the last election, is it what? D plus 2, D minus?
D
or
plus 10.
R plus 1? What? Oh, you don't
It's
know.
a D plus 10.
Tell me, how is possible, Lynn, you're going against of the Republicans as well? So this is something, like a not usual thing. It's weird, to be honest.
Well, it's an open seat. So that means like it's fair game for everyone, right? Usually if you're the incumbent, then nobody's going to run against you in your own party, unless you were really, really terrible. Then, you'd have a bunch of people who want to run. But of course, like if you were like we see that, for example, like David Barrero, Alex Rizzo, and Tom Fabricio in Miami-Dade County, they have no primary opponents and no Democrat opponents, for that matter. But they're in a quite, except for Tom Fabricio, I think both Rizzo and Barrero are in pretty red districts. So they have no challengers. As opposed to like some other districts, like 120, like we have people challenging the incumbent. So that's not entirely weird. It's just the way things are. People have different opinions about different representatives.
Well, D plus 10 is doable, but it's not easy. Right?
Well, to be honest, like it's actually an NPA plus 5. So so if we're looking at NPA as no party affiliation, we have a lot of people who are either like hidden Republicans or hidden Democrats, right? They just don't want to deal with the party issues. So we have a big chunk of that, and that's going to be the biggest determination of who's going to win this election. So. Like right now we're trying to move everybody who are NPAs and are Republicans to have confidence in the Republicans again. And then if they still don't, then we are relying on their vote in the general election. So
I have more questions for Greg. Maybe one more, just one more.
Why?
Okay.
Why one more? We have time. We have 20 minutes more.
I know Greg is he's leader of Republican Miami-Dade and how personally, Greg, do you see any potential in a Russian community for Republic, and how you can help us to be involved in a Republican Party? How you can help us to be more involved personally for the media, like Nick's media, or for individuals, for people like myself, or like uh, um,
George, yeah.
George, or some other people who are active. We have many people who is willing to do something for Republican Party, Miami, but we're not organized yet.
Mhm. Well, that really is the key to it. I can give you my story is, very, very simple at the end of the day. I was one of those sort of conservative Republicans who all my life sort of kept my head down. I didn't really engage in politics at work. I didn't talk about issues. I didn't talk about anything. I didn't want to get into acrimonious arguments. And as a consequence, I woke up on the morning of Wednesday, November 8th, 2008, and Barack Obama was the president. And I realized it was my fault. Not my fault because I was out stuffing ballot boxes anyplace. My fault because people like me, had taken that approach for many, many, many years. People of conservative mind a lot of the time see politics as something, and I think George sort of brushed up on this a little bit. It takes effort, and that effort takes us away from living our lives and running our businesses and taking care of our families. And we want to be involved in it to the extent that we can show up and we can vote, and then we can go back and we can take care of our lives the way that we would like to. And we, for the most part, I think from a philosophical perspective, have been disinclined for the most part to really get involved over the years. And I realized on that particular morning that I had to change. Otherwise, presidents like Obama were going to become a regular ongoing thing. And I decided to get involved, and I became an activist in my community. And I can tell you that early on, that sort of mentality was common. That's when the Tea Party erupted. We had, for the first time, conservative political activist organizations popping up like crabgrass all over the country. And the one thing that was in common with most of them was the attitude of, okay, we need to work and we need to fight and we need to take our country back so we can go back to our lives. That's not how it works. You need to be committed, and that commitment can't ever go away. I can't remember exactly who the quote is attributed to, but there's a famous saying that those who refuse to get involved and participate in politics are doomed to be ruled by their lessers. This is true, especially in our system here in America. As far as the Russian community goes, one of my hobbies, and Lynn will confirm this, I am a compulsive reader of just about everything. And one of my favorite areas of study has for years been Russian history. I'm somewhat of a Russophile. I became obsessed when I was very, very young with the Bolshevik Revolution. I've known a lot of Russian immigrants here in the United States, and they're all here for pretty much the same reason: to get away from what happened in their country. And for the most part, they don't want to see it happen again. They don't want it happening again here. Russians
That's why
are
we're all afraid of the Biden regime, because
yes,
it literally comes
for
from
very good reason. For very good reason. The Russian community should be a natural fit within conservative Republican politics, because there is an absolutely, strong, enduring opposition to the mentality that led to Bolshevism and the ultimately 100 million plus lives that it cost over the last century. We don't want to see that happen here. And I know the Russian community, most of all, does not want to see that happen here. As far as getting involved, the Republican Party is like any other group. You need to get their attention. Sometimes you need to grab them by the throat and shake them a little bit, especially where party politics is concerned. But as a community, the Russian community absolutely has a place and should be involved in Russian politics, especially here in Miami-Dade. I know that many Russian immigrants have made this their home. It's a wonderful choice, in my opinion, but it's one that you have to be willing to get involved and constantly work and fight for in order to maintain it. And, to that end, certainly I, to whatever extent I can in my participation and work within the Republican Party, would want to reach out to and help in whatever ways possible to try to bolster and nurture the participation of the Russian community to whatever extent you're willing and able in order to help with that ongoing fight.
But so far the Russian community is not really active. The people just, maybe afraid to go to the voter polls to get the votes done, or maybe they're just, thinking it's nothing changed. Right, George?
They're not. I think the Russian community isn't active in the sense of forming organizations, like political organizations. Like I'm not aware of a Russian American Republican Party club or something. I'm not aware of that. I mean, maybe in New York, but certainly I'm not aware of anything in Florida like that. I mean, people do vote. I mean, certainly, I'm pretty sure. But in terms of activism, as that word is usually used, I don't know about that. A few maybe, but certainly it's not a typical pattern. Let me ask a difficult question though.
Okay.
Of Lynn. Let's say I am a strategic voter. Okay. So in other words, my primary objective is to get a Republican. Right now there's a Democrat there, right? So to get a Republican in there. I don't know the demographic makeup of this district, but I'm guessing it is a lot more Hispanic than it is Asian. Okay.
Oh, everywhere in Florida.
Right. So looking at it's not. In other words, it's not that I don't like you necessarily, or that I like our new friend whom I've met for about 5 minutes, Fabian Basabi, but thinking strategically, one could decide that given, more or less, sympathetic candidates in both cases, a Hispanic candidate has better odds of winning in a D+10 district than an Asian one. No offense.
Okay.
What's your response to that? It's a tough question, but if you want to be a politician, you have to answer tough questions.
Okay, so my gut is telling me now. When I analyze this, I'm looking at. I think voters should look at who is more qualified, and also once the primary is over, and they're going to go up against the Democrat contender, right? We have to look at who is going to be the least able to be attacked, or who is going to be the person who is the more qualified person who can actually go head to head with, the Democrat and answer the tough questions that we have of issues in our district. So I know most voters don't think that way. They think, Basabi has money, Basabi has, whatever he has. And I get all of that, right? You also have to look at that. Right. So, I mean, the Democrats are going to look for something that is going to be attackable, right? And attack the heck out of it. And, we've seen this happen, right? We've seen, the Russian collusion, right? For the whole first 2 years of the Trump presidency was the Russian collusion. Then it was the Ukraine quid pro quo. And then there was all kinds of other things. All these various different things about how a candidate can be attacked. I think it's important to really scrutinize and look at what it is that can actually put the person in the office. And here's another thing, another fun fact is that Hispanics that are immigrants, and I don't want to group everybody together, but Hispanics tend to have, I mean, when they're from their home country, they actually have a good view of Asians. They know we work hard. They know we do what we do, you know? I mean, if I'm looking at like, you know, how demographically people think, right? They might think, yeah, you know, she knows Kung Fu, she's good at math, and, you know, and she eats fried rice, and she works hard. So, I mean, there's so many, it's a never ending story when we go into this whole demographic stereotype thing, right? I really want to invite voters and people who are listening to this program to really look at the candidate themselves. Like, you know, are they ready? Are they prepared? Are they principled? Like, I'm going to stand inside of what I believe in and what I think is a good solution for our people, right? Versus like swaying one way or another because of who I'm talking to. Now that's a different thing. Like, you want to be, when you're selecting someone, I would hope that, like, you know, integrity is at the forefront, right? You know that this person has integrity. They will say and do, you know, what they do and say, right? So that's very important to me. That's one thing. As far as like people thinking, you know, a Hispanic has leverage, I would say that, you know, what possibly the Democrat who is Jewish is also thinking that he is going to, you know, definitely take all the Jewish votes just because he's Jewish.
I got some other tough questions to you from the chat. Alice Williams ask you, hi Lynn, my question might not sound politically correct. They were fact on the immigrants like me, like you. Did they any way affected your campaign? Some Americans did not trust immigrants.
Well, I think like in the area that we're in, we're a little bit more prone to immigrants. It's a very immigrant district, right? We have like a lot of Russians here. We have a lot of South Americans, Latin American people here. We also have a pretty good size, you know, a decent group of Asians. And Asians, I mean from South Asia and East Asia, all combined. I don't think that for me, it's not that more than, you got to get that, like, when we're getting in the political world, it's not about like race per se, but it's more about the connections you have with the establishment, which means that, like, the hardest part I'm having about this is being a grassroots candidate, right? Raising little by little money from voters and supporters, and not really having that elitist status where I know this person, I know that person, I know someone big, and I know everybody in town. That's what I don't have. And that's where it's like actually looked at like, oh, who are you? Versus like, oh, she's Asian, you know, like that's where the whole issue lies, really. It's lying where there's a barrier to entry for grassroots, where actually this seat was designed to be, right? You're supposed to select somebody who is a representative of you, who is more like you, right? A person who works 9 to 5, does their daily job, earns a living, is able to buy a house or rent a house, and can buy a car, have a dog, have a kid, whatever. This is like the normal thing that people go through, not the, you know, like people who come from tons of money or people who are well connected. And that's where the weakness is, more so than anything else, is what I see.
Nick, I have a question for George.
For me? Well, I'm not running for office, but okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are volunteering for Lynn in Sunny Isles. Are you with us? Are you in our team?
Or, I don't know yet. Maybe. But let me ask you another tough question but I'm sure you'll have to answer it or thread the needle if you get through the primaries. So let's talk about abortion. Where are you on abortion? And don't think you know where I am on that. I'll tell you later, but where are you on that?
Okay, so I'm going to do a little backstory for you, right? As a teenager in my freshman year in college, I had an abortion myself. Now that's because if I don't have an abortion, I would have to drop out of school and come back to school after I have my baby. That wasn't really the issue, apart from me being completely terrified that my mom, who has worked 2-3 shifts a day on various different jobs, is going to be so disappointed in me, right? Being, Asian, I'm supposed to be a doctor, I'm supposed to graduate from college, they work so hard. I was terrified. I never got any consultation. That abortion actually cost me to not be able to conceive children for the rest of my life. I didn't know that at the time. I just did whatever I did just to get through the situation. So with that said, I think that abortion shouldn't be like willy-nilly being given to everybody and be so super convenient, right? It should be rare, and it should be discussed in the family, right? It should be, and also I believe one more thing is that people should be responsible for their actions. There's only one activity that causes a pregnancy. There's no other activity that I know of, right? Maybe you could do IVF, but there's really only one activity that you can get pregnant from. And if you can't be responsible inside of that, or have a thought in your mind, if you know that there are restrictions inside of abortion, should you be more careful? Should you test yourself more often? That's something to talk about more so than actually having the government intervene and force people and allow people to do whatever it is that they're allowed to do or forced not to do. I get that there are, now that this whole thing is blown up in the past 50 years, it's caused so many issues, so many divisiveness between people that we can't even think clearly for ourselves. Like, I know that if I'm having a baby when I'm not supposed to have a baby out of wedlock, I should get an abortion. That was programmed into me. And I think that this is not the conversation that we should be having. We should be having conversations about, like, what is there to do? What are the repercussions? If you decide to do this, what should you look for and what should you be careful about? Like, none of this data is being given to people or being even asked. There's no counseling before you go, let me go to see, a psychiatrist or a psychologist for an hour to discuss about options about this and how it's affecting me and what are the repercussions of abortion? Now, back to your question. We just passed a bill called the HB5, right, which allows 15 weeks for abortion. I think that is plenty of time. Like I said, there's only one activity.
Absolutely,
if you're active,
yes.
Find out.
This is main question: how many times allowed by lawmakers to make an abortions? 15. It's a huge,
It's plenty of time.
It's plenty.
But when you think about, like, us being a stand for life, right? Like, we're protecting all lives that are responsible, innocent lives. We get to protect those. If I'm standing inside of protecting a life, at 6 weeks there's a heartbeat. 5 to 6 weeks, right? Their nervous system is starting to develop, so they do feel pain. So inside of that, like, the abortion happening at that time, like, the baby or the fetus, whatever you want to call it, right? I call it, it's going to be a baby. There is no other path. It's like, it doesn't, disappear after a while. But I get that, like, people are, it's more of a conversation where both sides get to come together and have this conversation. People can allow abortions up to 15 weeks. Do they know the repercussions of late-term abortions or mid-term abortions or early-term abortions? Are there more repercussions to that? If I had known that I wasn't going to have a baby at all, I would have probably had the baby. Then that's the truth, right? I mean, like, if you ask my college friends, when people were talking about, becoming a doctor, becoming, an analyst in the stock market and all that in college, my answer was, I want to be a mom. And all of my friends can vouch for that in college, because they said, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, I want to be a mom. I want to have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. So, I mean, not knowing that actually cost me that life that I wanted to have. But nobody was there to tell me. When I went to the abortion clinic, it was like, okay, make an appointment, sign here. All right, you go in. And the next thing I know, I'm counting down for the anesthesia to take action, right? Now, this is my personal experience. And honestly, like, there are many women out there that had an abortion without realizing the repercussions of actually not being able to conceive ever again, or having issues with, like, all the uterine, diseases, right? Like adenomyosis, like, endometriosis, like all these tumors and fibroids inside the uterus. Like all of this is also started from these, types of procedures, like not types of procedure, it actually is caused by abortion. So it's really, like I get my body, my choice for a lot of people. And it is. It is also your choice when you do have sexual activity that you monitor yourself as well. Because when you're taking a life away, it is a life. And if you realize that, it's precious. Like when someone gets pregnant, everybody's thinking like, oh, it's a miracle, right? And then the miracle just gets tossed in the trash can, cut up in pieces. Like, what about that? What about that miracle? Like, there's no honest conversation being had because there's so much benefit to, research and science and medical research and, using cells of babies and, whatever it is. Like I could go on all day, but there's also another conversation to be had for pro-lifers too. We had killed 63 million lives or more in 49 years. That means 60 some million abortions have been had. If we are pro-life, what are we doing to support the foster child system? What are we doing to support the abortion system? See, like I said, this is a conversation. Like we really need to settle this thing and really be real about it, right? It's not about somebody being right about my body, my choice, and not about somebody being right about it's a life. But where is that middle ground that we have to have a conversation about? That was a long answer, wasn't it, George?
Good answer. Huh? I mean,
Yeah, the Alice Williams said in the chat, what a great answer to a hot topic issue. Much more effective than just my body, my choice. And she's added also, I watch quite a few streams with Lynn on this channel. She's exactly the type of Republican American people need to present them. She is focused on the real issues that affect people's lives. See?
Thank you, Alice. I appreciate that comment. It's really great.
Well, just so you know, most Russians are not obsessed with the issue, and most Russians are probably pro-choice, as I am. I am a conservative Republican, but I happen to be, pro-choice. But it does not determine how I vote. But I wanted to ask a tough question because I wanted to ask a tough question.
No, and it's good. I think I wanted to find an opportunity. When people ask me about that, usually they only hear yes or no, right? Are you pro-life or pro-choice? And they only want to hear one of the two answers without hearing the explanation behind it. But there's so much involved in that. First of all, I think government should get out of it. And there should be a decision that, the person and their family and, their decisions made. It shouldn't be so readily okay, let's go, let's get your abortion right away. There should be some discussions and some support. And like I said, if it's a life and we stand to support a life, like I said, principles, we are standing for life, right? If life can be taken away at the point of birth, or life can be taken away, like in Virginia, that they said they'll put the baby in a comfortable place until it dies. For me, that is not okay, because how long does that extend? Is it okay to get an abortion when the child is 95 years old? That's, it just doesn't work. It's not a logical, rational conversation that we're having together. So for me, it's let's talk about it. Let's talk about how we're going to take care of that. If we're going to ban abortion at 6 weeks, right? Which we're not. We're actually extended it all the way to 15. And 15 is a long time. People can see heartbeats, their, baby bodies are developing. You could see all kinds of things at 15 weeks. So, there's obviously a life. It's no longer just the part, she's in the woman's body, but the baby is in the woman's body, but it's not part of the woman's body anymore.
Well, Nancy Pelosi is 83, if I recall correctly. So it's not too late, even at age 83. That would be my view on this.
Well, that one you and I agree on for sure.
Or any others like her.
Oh my goodness.
Biden is. Oh, here's a question. If you saw Joe Biden, let's say he was walking around your neighborhood, peeing on houseplants, what would you do?
Are you sure he's not going to tip over on his own without me doing anything?
Oh, no, there's Joe Biden, and he's on a house plant. What do you do?
Well, I mean, like, he should be arrested, right? Because,
I don't know.
it's what is it called? Like public.
Anyone but not Joe Biden, because so what's going on with the Hunter Biden never arrested.
Well, Hunter, I don't think pees on house plants. He does other things, but anyway, well, let's get. How much time do we have here? How long is the show?
Leave him alone. He's a poor guy.
Well, here's the thing. Like, for most people who really want Biden out, I said, well, your next alternative is Kamala Harris. So, let's keep it.
Oh, yeah.
I was just on Nick's show 2 days ago, and when I found out that Joe Biden has COVID, I prayed for his health, because the alternative to a senile, imbecilic cretin is
That's
worse.
all our life about the alternatives. Which alternative is better, which is worse.
Yes.
Listen, it's not funny. We had this experience with Brezhnev in Soviet Union, in former Soviet Union.
He was never this far gone. No, he was never this far gone.
It was the same.
My father has Alzheimer's, actually. My father is 85, and he has Alzheimer's. And I can tell you he's a lot more coherent than Joe Biden. A lot of times he says very strange things. Like, he thinks that I own the condo building where he lives in New Jersey, the whole building. He has all kinds of strange ideas, but they're not as strange as Joe Biden's. But
Joe Biden he gave himself cancer at some point.
He has cancer. It's hard to die. He may be dying of cancer.
Does not confirm it.
Well, I mean, he's like, I have cancer. Like, everybody's like, what?
And nobody asked any questions. Remember when Trump, I don't know, it's like he walked down this ramp, okay, and carefully, and everybody was diagnosing him with all sorts of things. But yeah. Now there is a suspicion that he actually didn't have COVID. Okay, he actually was getting a facelift or like a Botox or something, and that's why he had to disappear for a few days. Okay, that had nothing to do with COVID.
So I think the suspicion lies in certain evidence of him he's normally doing one activity a day. But now that he has COVID, he can join on Zoom calls, and he's doing multiple. So he's doing 2 or 3 meetings a day. And in those meetings, he's on a Zoom call where there's like a teleprompter for him to answer questions. So, I mean, I think
he can't read the teleprompter either. So
I think that, he can, because he can read these cards where it says repeat. But the suspecting is they want him to quarantine for another 2 years.
So let's say that Joe Biden picked you as vice president, and then you inherit the nuclear codes. Okay, what do you do with them?
That is so funny. Honestly, I've never thought about that, and there's nothing to do unless there is a nuclear war going on, right?
Or World 3. Yes, that's what exactly we are talking about. Look, when
there's nothing to do with it. Like, I mean, I
Pelosi is going there.
I just keep it safe and make sure nobody sees it. Unless, of course, we're in a war and our president is incapacitated, as
Lynn, he was incapacitated on the day he was inaugurated. So.
You got that right, George.
Let's talk about real thing. In 2024, DeSantis ran for the presidential election, and he's left his governor position here in Florida. What's going on next?
You mean?
I honestly don't think. I don't think that our governor is going to leave his
presidential
post. I don't think the governor is going to leave his post as our governor. I think that I really don't, because like we've talked to, like, when we see him at events for bill signing, everybody be like, yeah, DeSantis 2024, right? Like for president.
Yeah, but he's not going to say it now. Of course, he's not going to say it.
And he hasn't alluded to anything like that, but he was saying like let's finish up this governorship first, and we'll this next election first, and then maybe we'll talk about it. But he didn't even say that. It was like it was so far beyond him. I think that with as much federal government overreach right now,
he's getting
but
ready.
but the truth is his timing is really good. Meaning, if he runs in 2024, he still has that momentum from COVID. He still has like how he handled Florida really well. His momentum would be very good.
He got money. He raised more than even Trump. So thanks for
he
Elon
has
Musk
tons
for
of money
giving
right now.
25
He's
billion.
running. Trust me, he's running in 2024.
I mean, would you be happy with it, George?
I would vote for DeSantis. If it's a choice between DeSantis and Trump, I would vote for DeSantis. Not because I would vote for Trump in the general election, regardless.
So let me ask you a hard question. Who do you think should run for president as a Republican?
Who do I think should run? I would go with DeSantis if it were up to me. I don't think Trump is going to listen to my views. I mean, if I were Trump, to be honest, I would.
Trump doesn't listen to anyone.
Trump doesn't listen to anyone. He'll almost certainly run. Personally, I would prefer that he were a kingmaker as opposed to try to be king. But Trump is Trump. Could he win? He probably, if it's against Biden, he probably will. Certainly in an honest election, he would win. Are we going to have an honest election? That's a separate discussion. But as between the two, I would pick DeSantis. I think a lot of people would, but also a lot of people like Trump. Okay, for any number of reasons.
79% according to the 79% for Trump and 19% for DeSantis.
Yeah,
by the way.
This there were some polls that came out.
When was this polled?
It's just came yesterday.
I didn't see that. Okay.
Actually, it was lower before from the polls that I heard.
It's lower than before. Yes.
Yeah.
Certainly,
the Fox News published
have name recognition outside of Florida and the surrounding states. I mean that's, but we're still 2 years.
It's Travgal Group. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're still a long ways away. There's certainly a big demand in the Republican ranks for Trump 2024, but there's certainly a big demand for somebody like Trump, but without the baggage. And Trump has a lot of baggage.
Well, whatever baggage that DeSantis doesn't have now, he will have a whole load when he decides to run for president.
Anybody, but now both are sort of tested or known quantities. I mean, is there more baggage than we know about when it comes to Trump? I doubt it. Is there more baggage in DeSantis? Are there more skeletons in his past that we don't know about? It seems unlikely that it's is it possible there's some video of him accepting, a suitcase full of money? I suppose it's possible. So far, we haven't seen it. Okay, so if I were DeSantis, and I said this, 2 days ago, whenever, maybe I have Alzheimer's. If I were DeSantis, I would position myself as sort of, Trump, but only better, without the baggage. That would be how I would try to sell myself. And I think there is demand in the Republican ranks, certainly the people who vote in the primary for that. Is he going to be attacked just like Trump, just like any other? Remember Romney? Romney was like an unreconstructed racist. It turned out, even though he spent his whole life trying to be, a not racist. So it's inevitable. DeSantis is a good politician. That's
very smart in how he dealt with a lot of issues. I think how he also the abortion bill that we had, HB5. Was also a good preemptive, measure to stop people from, honestly, the word would be freaking out about Roe versus Wade being overturned. But a lot of people don't realize that, and they're not on top of it.
A lot of people don't know what Roe v. Wade is. A lot of people
that's true.
think that Roe v. Wade has something to do with guns, for example, or who knows what.
No, I know they know it's about abortion, but they have it like it's a constitutional right to get an abortion, which is no.
believe it or not, you ask people, Roe v. Wade. A lot of people can't tell you what Roe v. Wade is even about, much less what it actually said. I mean, I'm a lawyer, I know, but a lot of people can't tell you. A surprisingly high percentage can't tell you. But that's another discussion. But DeSantis, Trump has charisma, unquestionably. That's how he got elected. Okay. DeSantis has some charisma, but not Trump level charisma. Now, do you have to have, did George Bush have Trump level charisma? No. Did Bush Sr. have Trump level charisma? Certainly not. No. Okay. Reagan had charisma. So you don't have to have sort of Trumpian levels of charisma to win. It certainly helps. It'll be interesting. If Trump, if I got invited to meet Trump, not that I ever will be, but, and if he cares to hear my view.
Everybody has a lot of tons of emails inviting for his dinners or something like that to endorse.
Not to run, be a kingmaker instead of, that's how you cement your legacy instead of, but he's not going to listen to me, obviously. He's planning to run, and I'm sure he will run. To be a politician, you have to be a narcissist. To run for president, you have to be an extreme narcissist. You have to believe against all odds.
Well, now I know what George thinks of me.
So guys, but first of all, we have elected Lynn. So let's elect Lynn first, Alice Williams.
No, I don't mean it in a negative sense. I don't mean that being obviously to take it to some bizarre extreme is bad, but you have to believe in yourself beyond what most people probably believe in you, right? At least initially. To run for president, you have to be an absolute. Remember Bill de Blasio? Remember him? He ran for president when he was a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. He was like minus 50 among Democrats. Okay, so in other words,
now you can look at Gavin Newsom doing that right now, right?
Well, Gavin,
he's like already preparing himself as the.
Yeah, but it's early. I mean, at this point, it's all name recognition. But back then, he was actually running.
So this is why it's important. I think I'm not the only grassroots candidate in the race. I mean, in this next election cycle, there are plenty more, right? If anybody who's listening that's not inside 106, I really encourage you to select someone who is a grassroots candidate. Grassroots meaning they're not like part of the elite class, and I don't mean just elite class in terms of family stature. I mean also people who are in the same crowd as that group, because they are out of touch. They really are out of touch with the people. So elect somebody who is more like you, and see if you can trust them. And I think that's the most important thing is if you can trust that person, because they are making decisions on a daily basis when they're in office on your behalf. So you can't be doubting whether they're going to make a decision outside of the principles they say that they have, right? Like one thing that I shared with you today, George, about abortion is that I'm telling you that my principle is to work something out that actually works for everybody. I'm not straight up pro-choice. I'm not pro-choice in that aspect, right? I do believe people make mistakes, and I do believe in giving that little leeway. But at the same time, we also have to have conversations on both sides. If you want to stand there, what are you providing? And if you want to stand here, what are the leniencies? This is how I operate, meaning I always look from a win-win situation. How is it that we can win-win on all sides while still maintaining and making sure that principles stay in place? So that's where I would actually call that in terms of who you're electing in your ballot, who you're bubbling the name for, right? Don't bubble the name just because of the name recognition. You have the early vote ballots right now. Take a look at them. Who are those people? And that's really important. I mean, if you look at my Democrat opponents, very little is known about them. Even if when you do your Google search and you search about them, there's hardly anything. The good thing is one of the members is actually a councilman. So you can actually go look at his voting record, right? You can look at people's contributions. Are those contributions coming from big businesses? Are those contributions coming from, like mom and pops? Like that's also something that you can look into as well.
Yeah.
So
And
to find out more about your candidate.
If I could make a suggestion, Starbucks here, like I'm looking that way. I know you can't see which way I'm looking, but there's a Starbucks in Sunny Isles. Maybe hang around there and introduce yourself to people. Because
I'll
like
do
I said,
that.
I am
She
probably
did
more politically aware
yesterday
than your
at 3
typical
p.m. We just
person
announced.
there.
Yeah.
And until I got that email that I thought was sort of spammy looking from I don't even know where, I had no idea that you even existed. No offense, but that's just.
No, I got that. Yeah.
So I understand the difficulties. I can, they're probably not going to let you into the buildings or what have you. But Starbucks, right there, see some people there. Maybe not this time of the year, but at least some people.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
I came from New York, and I knew Lynn for 2 more years. She's existence, and she's pretty close to our community. She's around.
No,
She's.
I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying.
That he didn't
Here
know.
we are a month
Personal
from the
experience,
election,
yeah.
and then I've never heard of you, until recently.
She's pretty.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Hard.
And I'm happy that I can address some of the questions that you are satisfactory with the answers.
No, good answers.
Very,
I mean,
very hard.
there isn't a right. I mean, there's no right answer for the abortion.
Lynn,
I didn't ask you
OnePlus,
because
I
I cared
believe.
so much about
He's
abortion.
gonna
I
vote
asked
for
it
you.
because I'm curious how you would handle the question, because the Democrats are going to throw that at you.
Say something.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Our friend Lynn support some.
Thank you. There are some Russian comments in the chat group. What are they? I can't understand what it says.
Let's see. Who will control?
Okay,
Question mark.
yeah. This one.
People like that do not get elected. Although ... Let's wait till November, then everything will be clear. Let's elect Lynn first, but that's in English. Nope, I am not. I don't know what that is. Nick, here in the Russian Federation, we have debates. Trump is old, and DeSantis is young, and DeSantis is ready. No, he's not ready. Let's see what else. That's English.
Yeah, that's it. Let's show the one more time the ballot. So the ballot is for.
I didn't get a ballot, but I usually vote in person. If I'm physically here.
But
by the
anyway,
way,
it's very important, to find how to find and who's gonna be present. So if you go there, this is the third field. The third field, here's the Lynn name here, Representative 57, District 106. You can
now,
find
who's the
her
third
here.
guy, by the way? This Douglas. Who the hell is he?
Yeah, Douglas John Ross. Mm-hmm.
Who is he? Never heard of him before.
Well, hardly anybody has. Mr. Roth got into the race at the very, very last second. He paid the qualifying fee, which there's 2 ways you can get on the ballot. You can collect petitions within the state of Florida, and once you reach a certain threshold and have enough petitions, you automatically get on the ballot. And the other thing you can do is simply write a check to the Florida Department of Elections and get your name on the ballot that way. Mr. Ross and Mr. Basabe both took that route. They either couldn't or didn't bother trying to get petitions in order to get on the ballot.
Two Republicans.
Yeah.
So how many signatures do you need on the petition?
For a redistricting year, it's $5.99.
Yeah.
But if you look at my page, I think I have 800-ish.
Yeah.
So I've been collecting them for a while. Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but it's not a.
No, it's a good opportunity to meet people, right?
Yeah.
Like and talk to them and have them sign. That means that they see that you're suitable. I mean, they will quiz you to death, right? Like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? So, yeah, it's a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of work.
How many we collected in Sunny Isles?
Oh, I was with you.
We've been together. Do you remember how many we collected there?
I think we collected, I don't know, like maybe over 50 or 60 or something like that. Yeah. Now, the thing is, like, when it goes into, the supervisor of elections, they will verify if the name and address and signatures match whatever you registered to vote with. And if they didn't sign that, or they moved before or after, the date that they signed it on, then they will deem those invalid. So yeah, I actually had maybe over 1,000 petitions altogether, and like 800-ish got verified.
So give us the skinny on this Fabian guy. I mean, like I said, I met him for like 5 minutes, okay?
Yeah. Do you want me to handle this, Lynn?
What's that?
Okay, up to you, Greg. Remember, I don't run negative campaigns, so.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I'll be, nothing against Fabian. I've met him a few times. He seems like a genuinely nice guy. As a matter of fact, the very first time after Lynn and I had a meeting with him, we were driving away, and I'm like, geez, how can anybody be mean to this guy? It'd be like kicking a puppy. I mean, he just, most of the time, his persona is just very kind and very nice. But he will tell, I mean, I'm not trying to say anything negative about him, but he has been very open and upfront about the fact that he's never really worked a regular kind of job. He grew up.
Wasn't he an actor on some show, like sort of not?
He was on a
show, but not that show.
Yeah, he was on a reality show called Filthy Rich Cattle Drive, where they took a bunch of young kids who grew up in families with lots and lots of money, the idea behind the show was taking wealthy, privileged kids and putting them in one of the most, demanding, really physically exhausting kind of jobs you can imagine, and see how they reacted. So, picture, the Paris Hiltons of the world. And he was on that show. That was I guess a big boost to his name recognition. But I mean, he has a vision for what he thinks that he wants to do, but that vision is based mostly on, in his own words, people he knows. He thinks that he can be effective in Tallahassee because he knows people. I'm not sure who those people are. He doesn't really say, but I think it's fair to say that he is more or less the opposite of a grassroots candidate. Like I said, he didn't really put any effort into collecting petitions. He, as far as we know, isn't really doing much in the way of canvassing. I mean, he says that he is, but I mean, Lynn and I have knocked on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of doors in the district, and we have yet to find a voter that we've talked to who said he or any of his people have come to their door. It seems to be a campaign that is mostly, like I said, based on his idea that he knows people. And that's what's going to make him successful in Tallahassee, is his connections.
Is he wrong?
Well, I think that he's wrong in the sense that what makes you effective in Tallahassee is, first and foremost, having a principled approach to policy. Like I said at the beginning, the only reason that I'm working with Lynn at all is that she is that principled sort of character who relates everything back to that. It's not a matter of convenience or who you know, or even, just trying to find consensus for the sense of having consensus. I mean, that the idea of bringing people together just for the sake of that, there's no real virtue to that. Where there's virtue is finding real principle-based solutions to policy that is going to be beneficial for our community here in District 106, as well as the state of Florida generally. And the idea of approaching it from the perspective of, I know people and I'm going to leverage all of my connections. The thing that says, at least to me, when I put on my hat as just a voter here in Florida, is that's kind of just bringing the elites together and getting their ideas and what's beneficial to them passed through as policy. And I don't think that's what any of us really want. I think we already have that system to a large extent, and it's one of the reasons why people get frustrated and upset with politics at just about all levels. What we really want is, as Lynn was saying, somebody who represents us, somebody who has the experience that we experience every day, whether you're a lawyer or a real estate broker or a plumber or a teacher or an electrician, somebody who has to go out and actually work in order to provide for their family and pay for their home. I think that's really the sort of person that we really want, especially in state government. I don't think it's a matter of, connections. And I'm not sure what connections as a reality TV star you really have that are going to be that beneficial to you anyway.
Greg, I'm sorry for interrupting you.
Sure.
I feel like myself and Nick, we would love to endorse Lynn behalf of the Russian-speaking community.
Sure, definitely.
Can we do this officially?
Oh, I'm sure Lynn would be happy to have that endorsement.
Yeah, because I know Lynn for a while, and I would love to do this.
Are you asking me?
No, I'm.
What is your answer? What is your answer, George? By the way.
Okay, you got my endorsement. I'm with you.
How officially can I'm asking Nick if Nick willing to endorse Lynn officially.
That's what we do, and we just we started a lot of time ago, and we create this live show with Lynn, and we answer the questions, do everything.
Where we can post this on a flyer, or I'm asking you as a campaign manager how we can officially announce where we can put this on a flyer, how we can organize.
Okay. First of all, we would need to be really, really clear and objective about who it is that you're speaking for. The Russian community is not a formal organization. And while you certainly, as a member of that community, are entitled to your own thoughts, your own opinion, and who you endorse in that respect, in order to make an endorsement, you need to be speaking for a formal organization of some sort. So that's really in order to have weight.
Yeah, I will ask our club, Republican Club, Beverly Caravan, our Hollandale and the Beaches Patriotic Club, where I'm holding the vice president position. And also I can, add a couple other, I'm political editor in Наш Дом America with Igor Baboshkin, and Nick as a this Two Kids production program. Maybe we will find some, titles.
I really appreciate it, Malka. Thank you.
You need to get your name out there, because nobody knows. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I suspect your name recognition is not high at this point. So you really need to get your name plastered, like the Publix here, the Starbucks, wherever people drive by or congregate or whatever.
You raise a valid point in that, George. Your point is valid, but I would also point out that is a problem that we have across the board with good candidates everywhere in state and local elections. The difficulty is that most voters tune in for about 5 minutes every 4 years for a presidential election. And other than that, they are checked out, and it is a constant battle trying to get their attention and get in front of them. And to that end, we rely also on folks like you to help spread the word. I mean, talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends.
And we're here. We're always here. And we always wish you the good luck with the Lynn campaign, and we hope, Lynn, you win. But meanwhile, we just welcome to have you every Thursday in live Lynn show to answer the question about Republicans, about Florida life, about what's going on. And we're hoping that's not going to stop even after you get that representative position in the Florida state.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate the time, because this is a really good chance to connect with people in the community. Even if they're watching a recording, we could actually interact. They can email me, Lynn@lynnsu.com, When I get elected, it'll be a different email. But my phone number is also listed on my website. You can also sign up on the website if you'd like to volunteer, or if you have any questions, just email or call. Those two options are always open for everyone, especially coming close to the election. It's important to, like, I appreciate George's time coming today, because he came on and he asked the questions that mattered to him and that mattered in his making a decision. So if you have any questions, like, please come on. We have our show here, right? Thursday at 3 every week. And I make time for it all the time because I know it's important. And even after elected, I hope to, like, really have a town hall in every city. There's 10 cities, and it's only, you know, once a month. I have no problem with that, or even twice a month. That would be fine with me too. But I would love a chance to meet with all of you and answer any questions and support you in what it is that concerns you the most, right? That's it for me. So right now we do need a lot of volunteers. I mean, if you can help us with anything like door knocking, making phone calls, or, you know, if you like to, you know, volunteer at the polls, like I think that's what Malka was talking about before. We could volunteer at the polls, you know, to watch, or they're, you know, 50 feet or what is it, 100 feet from the polls, that we can actually, right, we can put up signs and stuff like that and monitor them and get people's attention so that at least they see the name before they walk in and they don't forget.
Voting room, you know, like if you look at those people who sit there, you know, let me tell you, like when I walked in there the last time, they like, you know, knew instantly that I wasn't the right kind of voter. So.
Yeah. And we should have people that are our people in there too, right? Because like right now there's an imbalanced distribution of poll workers, because, like, you know, most of us are not available for that. But if we can make time for it at some point during the election, one day, you know, there are poll workers that get paid for it, and hopefully this time it won't be paid with Zuckerbucks. So, you know, we would be, so that way, like, our tax money is going into
Cross
like
fingers.
people who actually are going to put the time in. What happened?
Cross fingers about that money.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we had SB 90 passed, so, you know, there's all banning of Zuckerbucks and whatnot, any type of private funding for our elections, because this election is not for sale. Our vote is so important. Like I said before, whether you're Elon Musk, Bill Gates, everybody has the same weight of vote, and your vote matters. And if you haven't registered, please register to vote. If you have already registered, please make sure you get out and vote, because it's so important. And it doesn't have to be for me, although I would be very happy if it was for me. And but it's important that you exercise your right. Please read up on the judges. That's very important. Okay, the judges
that actually is an issue. Okay,
yeah, like, because we don't have D's and R's after that, so you don't know if they're conservative or not, because they're supposed to be designed as nonpartisan. Well, but the easiest way is to look at their voting record, right, or their judgments, like how they decide on cases.
Let me ask a question. Okay, so there's a bunch of judges. The only way I know how to decide on this judge or that judge is that this judge was appointed originally by a Republican governor, for example, DeSantis or Scott or whatever, and that one is not. Aside from that, I don't see how a normal person, I mean, I'm not going to go and read all their decisions. I mean, there's thousands.
I know, it's a long process.
Well, it's an impossible process.
True.
If the requirement...
And this is said by the attorney, by the way.
Yeah, well, you know, a judge probably issues, I'm going to say about 100 opinions a year. Maybe I'm overestimating 100. Most of them are on issues that are completely nonpartisan. So finding the, you know, handful that are partisan and reading them, and in other words, it's impossible to do this even for one judge. It's unlikely. Okay, so do you know of a way to? Okay, so we have, let's say, in our district, however many judges are up there being elected, or one of you being selected. Where does one go and look to see all that information gathered nicely, you know, with a bow wrapped around it?
You wish. You wish. So it's really tough. So I was going to say, Greg will chime in later, I'm sure, because I could see him clicking away on something right now. But what I would do is I would look for a think tank that I trust, right? A think tank is like, like
I know what it is. Like which one?
Right, like Heritage Foundation or things like that.
Federalist Society.
Federalist Society, there you go.
Mhm.
And then look at these.
Do they have something to say about state level like judges? Really, I didn't know that they did.
The best way is to and you may have some resources on this, George, being an attorney that you don't even realize. If you get connected with some of the local FedSoc members here in Miami-Dade, they usually keep up on local judges. I mean, that's I have a friend, his name is Jefferson Knight, who is he's been a FedSoc member for years, and every election he's a guy that I know I can go to and ask, who's who amongst the judges on the ballot. But usually people in FedSoc are a very good resource for that. They're in fact who the Trump administration used to help vet nominees for the federal court before they were ever put out for Senate approval. So that would be a very good resource right off the bat, that I would say. Heritage, they might do a little bit. I'm not that aware of them.
Maybe in other courts that are not local, not state. Mm-hmm. But you never know. I mean, like sometimes there might be some research, or you search the name and you look for that, and you might find it. So it is a little tough.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's no certainty. I understand that, but
there's also some other Republican clubs also. Some Republican clubs actually do vet these candidates and you can use it as a reference.
But do they put it out? I mean, is there some website where I can go and see, okay, Republican Club of, I don't know, Aventura?
You should go attend personally to these clubs, right? So yeah, and Malka has also the Republican clubs, and so many of them.
Well, it's a problem, and I don't know how. Like, if even I, have difficulty figuring these things out, how does a normal person figure these things out? You just, either randomly fill in the bubble, or you just don't do it at all because you don't know who these people are. Right.
But Lynn got some application, right, about the persons. You got the application with information about Republicans who run, about judges, right?
There are some information that we have, and we can pass that along to you. But usually, like I said, I'm so engulfed in my own, in my own election, I haven't really looked at that yet. So that's why. I mean, I haven't been.
We're not going to answer that question probably now.
Yeah, it's going to be a while.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. I think we spent a lot of great time to explain how it works and what Lynn going to do. And we just, wish her good luck. And looking forward for the next Thursday, 3 p.m. For the next live show when we can ask for any questions. Please use our chat, send it questions, attend us, and I think everything is going to be great because we're working for you guys, and we can, at least we try to explain how things work. Thank you so much today in Two Cats Video Production. GREGORY, CONTERIO, George BARDMESSER, Malka Shahar, and of course Lynn Su Live.
Okay. Thank you so much, Nick. Thank you everyone for all your questions and your comments, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Bye-bye, guys.
Okay,
Have a wonderful day.